You know, it's funny, I've never been much of a collector of other stuff. I mean, I built cars. If you're a mechanic, you sort of collect cars like orphan children and restore them, you know. But if you look around the rest of the house, there's like nothing in here. I'm a pretty like minimalistic person, but for some reason the American soccer stuff stuck. Hi, my name is Pablo Maurer. These are my GRAILS. My family's from Spain, so I'd say it's always sort of been in my blood. I lived in Madrid. I did a semester abroad type of deal, or a year when I was 13 years old. It was in 1993. First game I ever went to was Real Madrid Atleti game in front of 110,000 people in Madrid. You know, back in the days when there were no seats in the lower bowl, you just stood the whole time, and it was a transformative experience for me. By happenstance, the next year I came back and the World Cup was in the U.S. So I'm definitely one of many 44-year-old people who was fully, my love of soccer was fully cemented by that 94 team and seeing the tournament in the U.S. and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think people who didn't live through that tournament might not understand how big a deal it became as the U.S. advanced, when they beat Colombia, etc. It was like a rallying cry for once for soccer in this country, so it sort of got pulled into that. I mean, those guys, Lalas and John Harkes and, Kobe Jones and Miola, all these guys were like formative figures for many people my age. For me, for example, when I lived in Spain, Tab Ramos was playing for Betis. It was like, I remember being in class and like kids would talk shit about American soccer and I'd be like, no, we have a player here, man. He didn't play much, but still it was like, see, we can do this, so yeah, it was definitely a formative time for me. Steve Sampson, the future who coached the U.S. from 95 to 98, and in the 98 World Cup, the ill-fated 98 World Cup, was an assistant on the 94 team. This is his team issued warm-up. Pairs well with a denim kit, obviously. This, funnily enough, designed by this designer Peter Moore, who also did the denim kit, who also did the Air Jordan sneaker, the first one. He did the Adidas, modern Adidas equipment logo, so the 3 stripes that ascend. He did that. That's like on every piece of sportswear in the world now. Just an icon, and he did this. And this is like classic 90s style, obviously. My parents are both writers, thankfully, and educators as well, so it's always kind of in the air. I'd worked on cars for a living my entire life. I have no real formal education outside of high school. So I started to work for DCist, which is an outlet that is now gone. They needed somebody to cover DC United. I figured it'd be like some interesting extra money. I was also just, interested in getting credentialed and having access to that sort of stuff. I think I'm like a pretty curious person, man. I'm really prone to falling down rabbit holes. I remember finding out about the NASL, when I was a teenager, and it's sort of blowing my mind, wait, like Pelé played here? Like, what are you talking about? And like, then you start looking into that league, for example, and then I got obsessed with like the fashion of it and like the goofiness of it, and then then you realize all these players are still alive, and you can just talk to them and ask them what it was like, or you can like touch the jerseys or hold them. So it kind of all went from there. Some people, when they find one little chunk of information out, are satisfied with that, and there's other people who are like, no, I need to like know everything about this in absurd detail, and I think I'm probably the latter of those two things. For me, it was important, I write in here, it's my office, so it was just important to kind of put myself in a headspace where I'm like prepared to do that sort of work. It's tough to come in here and sit down and not immediately just think about a certain decade stretch of American soccer. Never been a huge shirt guy. I've always liked the other stuff, bags, warm-up stuff, balls, boots, posters, artwork, that sort of stuff. Everything in here is probably from a 3 to 4 decade stretch, from say 1970 to the mid-90s. Some old MLS stuff, some old US national team stuff. I'd say 85 to 90% of it is NASL stuff. To be clear, a lot of it's obviously not worth anything. The NASL particularly is still a league. While it's more relevant now and people want the kits and that sort of stuff, a lot of the merch, there's that's a clock radio ball right there that's not worth anything, obviously. Those can be found and had on eBay or wherever else for very little. You know, a lot of this stuff I have just because I think it looks cool. I think it's more haphazard with me, and like I've said, I think a lot of it has sometimes to do with whatever story I happen to be reporting at that point. Sometimes you just find stuff like this. These are just fucking random headshots, like prison-looking stuff of NASL players. Cracks me up.
That's so funny.
Yeah. All these people are dying and disappearing, and their things are dying and disappearing too. I mean, it really cracks me up. Early on, sometimes I would do an interview and then ask the subject, you know, do you have anything laying around? And half the time it'd be like, yeah, my kids don't want this, or what's this worth? I mean, I've been offered stuff for free that I've paid for just because I don't feel right taking it for free. You know, many people don't have any concept of the historical value of this sort of stuff, you know, so it probably just ends up at Goodwill or in the trash. So as far as the collecting part of it goes, there is some level of preservation involved, you know, and from a storytelling perspective, like I said, I mean, you just need to get these people's words on paper, and the way that you need to get their shirts on a coat hanger. Whatever purpose I have is narrowed down to the things that were formative to me as a soccer fan, and the things that I just find out about in the course of reporting stories that make me sort of like want to know. I want to have that and sort of look at it every day. Like the Lana Donovan contact sheet is like that. If you told me that I wouldn't be on this earth tomorrow, I'd probably just give it all to the Soccer Hall of Fame or something and say, whatever you think has historical value, you know, stick it in a warehouse somewhere or hang it up, and whatever doesn't, I don't know, you know, liquidate it and use the funds to buy something with more historical meaning. I don't think it's like a popular collection of items, you know, not with the vast majority of human beings, at least, you know. Yeah, I don't take any of this too seriously, but it is sort of a privilege to even be around that kind of stuff. To find it, it's much more of a privilege to like talk to players who shared a locker room with that player, or sort of like, you know, sometimes talk to the players themselves. You know, my collection pales in comparison to many other people who have, you know, hundreds or thousands of shirts, you know what I mean? But this is just my little thing, man. I did this for myself, not for anybody else, you know, so it's cool that you're here. But you'll be gone soon, and then I'll just be in this office again writing dumb stories and, you know, looking at my dumb shit everywhere.